Picture this. Deep in the vast, frozen expanse of Siberia, a team of researchers stumbles upon something extraordinary, something that could challenge our very understanding of life on this planet. What they found wasn't gold or ancient artifacts, but a skeleton unlike any they had ever seen. The initial reports were electrifying, sending shockwaves through the scientific community. The bones were strange, with proportions and features that didn't quite match human anatomy. Could this be it? The definitive proof of extraterrestrial visitors? The internet, of course, went into a frenzy. Headlines screamed about alien remains, and social media was flooded with theories, each more fantastic than the last. Was this a visitor from another world, crash-landed and preserved in the ice for millennia? Or perhaps a previously unknown branch of the human family tree, a lost cousin with a unique evolutionary path? The mystery was intoxicating, and the world held its breath, waiting for answers. Let's dive into the details that made this discovery so baffling. The initial field reports highlighted several anomalies. The skull, for instance, was described as being unusually elongated, with larger-than-average eye sockets. The limb bones, particularly the femurs and humeri, were said to be longer and more slender than those of a typical Homo sapiens. And then there was the rib cage, which reportedly had a different structure and count. These weren't just subtle variations, they were significant differences that fueled the not-human theory. Imagine the excitement and the tension in that remote Siberian lab as the first analyses began. Every measurement, every observation was meticulously recorded, all under the shadow of a monumental question: who, or what, did this skeleton belong to? The preliminary data was so strange that even seasoned paleontologists were scratching their heads. It's easy to see why the alien hypothesis took hold so quickly. When faced with the unknown, our imaginations tend to run wild. The sight of the discovery itself adds another layer of intrigue. We're talking about Siberia, a land of extremes. Its permafrost is like a natural time capsule, capable of preserving organic matter for thousands, even hundreds of thousands of years. We've seen it with woolly mammoths, preserved so perfectly that their flesh and fur are still intact. So, the idea of finding something truly ancient and well-preserved there isn't far-fetched. The specific location was a remote area known for its unique geological history. This context is crucial. Was this an area where ancient hominins could have been isolated, allowing them to evolve in unique ways? Or was it, as some UFO enthusiasts proposed, a known hotspot for unusual aerial phenomena? Every piece of information, from the soil composition to the pollen samples found nearby, became a clue in this incredible scientific detective story. The isolation of the region meant contamination from modern sources was minimal, making the find even more pristine and scientifically valuable. As the scientific community geared up for a more thorough investigation, the initial excitement gave way to a more methodical, rigorous process. This is where the real science begins, far from the sensational headlines. The skeleton was carefully transported to a state-of-the-art facility for in-depth analysis. The first order of business was to get a definitive age. Radiocarbon dating was employed on small, carefully selected bone fragments. This technique measures the decay of carbon-14 isotopes to determine how long ago an organism died. At the same time, teams of experts from different fields were assembled. Forensic anthropologists, specialists in the human skeleton, were brought in to meticulously examine every bone. They compared the measurements against a vast database of human skeletal variations from across the world and throughout history. Geneticists, meanwhile, faced the daunting task of trying to extract and sequence DNA from the ancient bone. This is incredibly challenging work, as DNA degrades over time, but if successful, it could provide the most definitive answer of all. And so, the moment of truth arrived. After weeks of painstaking analysis, the results started to come in, and they began to paint a very different picture. The radiocarbon dating placed the skeleton at approximately 700 years old. This was much more recent than the prehistoric or alien origins that many had hoped for. It meant the individual lived during the medieval period. Then came the anthropological report. The elongated skull? It was a classic example of artificial cranial deformation. This was a practice found in many cultures throughout history, including some ancient groups in the Eurasian steppes. By binding a child's head with cloth or boards, the skull's shape could be permanently altered as it grew. It was often a marker of high status or cultural identity. What about the long, slender limbs? The analysis revealed that the individual was likely an adolescent who had suffered from severe malnutrition. This can cause bones to grow longer and thinner than normal, a condition known as marfanoid habitus. The strange rib cage? A combination of post-mortem damage from being buried in the shifting permafrost and a possible congenital abnormality. The final piece of the puzzle was the DNA analysis. Despite the challenges, the genetics team successfully extracted mitochondrial DNA, and the results were conclusive. The DNA was unequivocally human. It belonged to a haplogroup commonly found in indigenous Siberian populations. There were no alien markers, no unknown sequences. The mysterious skeleton from Siberia was not an extraterrestrial visitor, but a human being, likely a young person from a local tribe who lived and died around the 13th or 14th century. The unique combination of cultural practices, disease, and the harshness of the environment had conspired to create a skeleton that, at first glance, appeared utterly alien. The story took a turn from a sci-fi thriller to a poignant human drama. Who was this person? What was their life like? The skull deformation suggests they may have been important, yet the signs of malnutrition tell a story of hardship. This entire episode is a fantastic illustration of the scientific method in action. It began with an extraordinary claim, which rightly demands extraordinary evidence. The initial observations were anomalous and genuinely puzzling, but instead of jumping to conclusions, the scientific community engaged in a process of systematic investigation. They formed hypotheses. Was it an alien, a new hominin, or a modern human with pathologies? Then they tested these hypotheses using multiple lines of evidence: dating, physical anthropology, and genetics. Each test served to either support or refute a hypothesis. In this case, the evidence consistently pointed away from the extraterrestrial and towards a human origin with a complex backstory. It shows that science isn't about having all the answers right away. It's about asking the right questions and rigorously seeking the truth, even if that truth is less sensational than the initial speculation. It is a process of peeling back layers of mystery to find a reality that is often more complex and fascinating. So, while we didn't find an alien, we found something just as compelling: a window into a human life from centuries ago. This story isn't a failure to find aliens. It's a success in understanding our own diverse and complicated past. It reminds us that human history is filled with incredible cultural practices, like cranial deformation, and that our bodies can be shaped in surprising ways by disease and our environment. The Siberian alien is a powerful case study in critical thinking. It teaches us to be skeptical of sensational claims and to wait for the evidence. The initial excitement was fun, but the real story, the human story uncovered by careful science, is ultimately more meaningful. It connects us to an individual who lived a life of struggle and status in one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth. This journey from alien discovery to human history is a perfect example of why we should always approach mysteries with an open but critical mind. The universe is full of wonders, and many of them are right here on our own planet, hidden in our own past. The story of the Siberian skeleton isn't about beings from other worlds. It's about us. It's about our adaptability, our cultures, and our shared human experience across time. And sometimes the truth of our own history is stranger and more fascinating than any fiction we could imagine. The next time you hear a headline about a mysterious discovery, remember this story. Enjoy the mystery, but appreciate the process of scientific inquiry that eventually brings us the real, and often more profound, answer. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the mystery of the Siberian skeleton. It's a fascinating tale of discovery, speculation, and science. If you enjoyed this journey and want to explore more incredible stories from the worlds of science and history, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure into the unknown. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think when you first heard about the discovery? Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.